Hello, welcome to another issue of The Squeeze from Marketing Juice with me, Mark Baxter, and our founder and proprietor, Miranda Imperi. Good morning, Miranda.
Good morning.
So you were telling us about a pain point you experienced recently.
Yeah, so we have this client, and we do all of their social media marketing, and one of the issues that keeps coming up is that we can't link the Instagram to their Facebook account. And I thought it would be a really good topic to pick for today's episode to kind of explain why that happened. And it actually is a pretty common problem for a lot of business owners. So what I want to do is kind of like get this problem out there, make sure people know that they're not alone, right? But then also explain how to avoid having these issues with proper platform setup for future growth of your business. All right. So anyway, this client.
Yes.
So we've managed their social media accounts for quite some time, and you might remember a couple years ago when Facebook and Instagram became more of like a singular platform, and it's been evolving this way for quite some time.
Yes, because there used to be two separate companies originally. Facebook
Right.
took over Instagram, which is why they're now integrated.
Right, and now as a business, a lot of different things that you can do on an Instagram platform, you actually must do through your Facebook access to that platform, which can cause problems if your Facebook account is not set up correctly.
It can't be that difficult, surely. I mean, I've got a Facebook account. My kids have Facebook accounts. I log on. I put in a username. I put in a password. I try to remember the password. And then I just post. I mean, it's not rocket science. Why is this causing a problem for so many businesses?
Well, honestly, the problem is pretty innocent. I mean, for business owners who were around for a long time before social media, or business owners that were older and weren't personal users of social media when they were starting their business, often like would reach out to their neighbor's, college-age kid who needed some side work, right? Or they would pay a marketing person in the beginning of starting their business to set up all of their social media accounts for them. Mm-hmm. The problem that we're seeing right now is that if your Facebook account that you use personally was not the account that you use to associate your business page, right, then you don't actually have like the creator rights to that page. And so what happened in a lot of instances is innocently, no bad intentions behind these actions, but people were setting up accounts that were either tied to their own personal Facebook accounts, or they were setting up business manager accounts on behalf of clients and the businesses. And then they no longer work with those businesses or those people anymore, or that person moved away, or, there was a relationship issue with them and they don't talk to each other anymore. But without that original access point, now there are things with these pages that you just can't access without like the ultimate control, like the ownership of the business manager account. Sometimes companies will have an employee with a dedicated email inbox, right? And they will use their email to set up all of these accounts for the business. And then the employee gets fired or the employee quits, right? And one of the things that we do is we deactivate that email inbox. I mean, that's a pretty big no-brainer, mm-hmm. right? Like we remove that email inbox. We don't have to pay for it anymore as a business. However, that then severs the ability for anybody to access those profiles ongoing because they need to be verified, right? So if you're logging in from a different IP address and you're using an old email address, often there's going to be an email that gets sent to that email address to verify that you're the one that's logging in, right? Like it's a safety feature. But if there's nowhere for that email to go and you don't have a catch-all email address set up.
So let me put this into like real world. So I basically snap my key in the lock of my house. I can't get into the house. Don't I just change the lock?
It's not that simple, actually. There are a lot of safeguards put in place because theft of social media profiles for big businesses is such a problem, right? And there have been all kinds of news stories over the last 3-4 years where dark web hackers are holding ransom access to a Twitter account or a Snapchat account just because of the username, right? And so that became very problematic, especially for businesses. And so there's a lot of safeguards in place to make sure that not just like anybody can access these platforms and just easily change the email address or the phone number that's associated with whatever account was created. And so it's super important as a business owner that if you're going to put your business online, that you put it online in a way that doesn't hinge on like one specific person. Mm-hmm. So for instance, this client had hired a marketing agency when they started their business 3 years ago. And they decided to have this marketing agency just kind of do everything on their end, right? Well, they no
longer... Because they didn't want to do their own marketing. That's why they employed them.
Right. So they did the Facebook creation. They did the Instagram account creation. They created all of the social platforms, the Twitter account, everything, right? And then they linked it to an email. For some of the accounts, they linked it to an email address within the vintage Google Workspace that was created digital marketing at, right? And then they stopped working together, right? And so as this Facebook connection and business manager connection to your page and Instagram and Facebook connection became more and more important, it became more of an issue that the people at this company, the owner of the company specifically, literally did not have any access to the back end and actual business tools that are vital to be able to market on these platforms, right? So, and they're huge time-saving things that we literally just can't provide for this client because there's that severed connection, right?
Okay, so I see what you're saying. So that sounds easy enough. I work with a marketing agency and I say, okay, you're going to do it for me, but we're going to use, I'm the owner, it's my business, I'm not going anywhere. Make sure you use my email address. Then I've got it all. Isn't that okay?
No. And you would think, sure, yeah, put everything in the owner's name, in the owner's email address, right? Because the owner of the business. However, what if the owner's on vacation? What if everything is verified through the owner's cell phone number? And so every time there is a two-step verification requirement, the owner has to be physically present and giving codes to their staff or to their marketing people in order to, have them access these really important platforms for marketing, right?
That starts you saying, because I mean, it's a pain even when I just want to get to my bank and I have to put in numbers and codes. So that's
exactly.
Just me for my stuff.
Right. And it's frustrating and it can really hinder progress and growth for a business. So what's great about today is that many accounts like YouTube and Facebook and pretty much every Google product, you can invite people to have certain levels of access. And that's what's so wonderful about Facebook switching over to Business Manager for managing these business assets on that platform. Because previously, I mean, you had to be connected in some way personally as the marketer to whoever was the owner of that page for them to add you to that page, and everything had to be done through a personal Facebook. Well, not everybody wants to have a personal presence on Facebook, especially not older business owners. And so the business manager tools actually allow us to have agency access to these tools. And what we can do at an agency is we can have just like one dedicated email that everybody shares the login for in our company. And that is what is given access to these platforms so that we're not relying on our clients to give us two-step verification codes or email verification codes, right? Because that way we have our own access points. And then should we stop working with this client, the client has the capacity to remove our access without damaging any of their access to it.
So they keep ownership of their site.
Exactly. Yes. So when you set up a platform, you want to ask yourself, how am I connecting this? Like, what email address am I going to be using to connect this? And can multiple people access it if I want to hand this off in the future? Because it's notoriously difficult to change some of the entry-level accounts, right, that you set up the account with without having to go through a bunch of steps. So a lot of times what we recommend is that clients create what we refer to as dummy Gmail account, which Gmail gives us pretty much universal access to all Google products, and then it can be used as an email address, and it is free to set up like a Twitter profile or an Instagram profile, and we would have access to it as a company, and they would have access to it and then we can share, but it doesn't also have any sensitive information that an employee of our client would have, right? That we wouldn't want access to their inbox over. Or even the business owner. We have business owners try to give us their email password so we can log into their email. Well, from my mind, I feel like that's a overstep in privacy, right? I don't necessarily want to know every
Could be
email.
interesting.
Right. And I don't want to know every email that my clients are getting, right? So what's nice is having like a third party email address that's easily accessed by client and by marketing agency can be really helpful.
So what I'm hearing from you is if I'm wanting to set up a business and the first year or two, I really expect it to be even just me, just the first couple of years, just setting up, it's probably worth setting up 2 emails right from the beginning. Just, Mark at Marketing Juice, but also admin or info or help at Marketing Juice or whatever it is I want it to be, just to be a secondary independent email address, future-proofing.
Yes, absolutely. And I also highly recommend that every business sets up a catch-all inbox for their emails. So that way, if an email address within their domain ends up getting removed or deleted and somebody's account was tied to that email address, whoever's account is the catch-all email address, they will still receive that mail. So the mail isn't just going into the ether, right? It is actually going into somebody's inbox and it can be addressed.
That's a good point, yes, because with the old-fashioned snail mail, it still arrives through the letterbox. Even if Fred's left the company, it still comes through the letterbox. But
yes.
if it suddenly disappears, you don't know it's there.
Right.
So what about the phone then? You mentioned this two-factor. We all get it. It's annoying. How do I get around that?
So what's interesting is that this only recently became an issue at Marketing Juice, and we actually purchased a company cell phone for this reason, so that every two-factor verification that requires a text message can actually be pushed to a phone that the entire team has access to and always stays in the office.
So like an in-mobile phone.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And what's great about having like a separate cell phone for this reason is that we have like an actual business line, a phone line that functions just like having a wired phone in your office, right? But we can also receive text messages and we can use it as an entry point for social media apps like Instagram that are highly mobile required for use. So there's not a lot of things that you can do on Instagram using a desktop interface. Most of it has to be done from mobile interface, and having a dedicated device to be able to do all of our Instagram work in office is super helpful. And this way our employees don't have to use their own cell phones. It's another great tip for just about any business, right? To have a dedicated cell phone for their employees to access so that you don't have to worry about reimbursing employees when they're using their own personal cell phone to accomplish some of these things that require text messages or app-based entry points.
Nice side benefit.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm hearing summarized there is it's worth definitely taking the time, no matter how small you are, no matter how think your business is going to be, to remember that you and the business are two separate things, even if practically the same thing at the beginning. Establish your business identity separately from your identity, separate email addresses, separate phone number. Take the time to do that right at the beginning and save yourself a lot of problems down the line as you grow.
Absolutely. And if you didn't take the time to do that, that's okay, because you can still go back and fix it now. It's just a little bit more time consuming, and we often help clients navigate that matrix of untangling a lot of their personal access points from their business platforms. And we can absolutely help small businesses go through that process if they need us. So.
It'll be much more helpful than if you find out your web designer is in fact on a gap year in Goa.
Right. It happens more often than you would think. Yeah. Yes. So, yes, in summary, it's super important to do this step, right? You want to make sure that you have that foundation built. And if you didn't build it, Marketing Juice can help you. So give us a call or visit our website and check out our plans and pricing. Shoot us a message.
Thank you, Miranda, and we'll see you next time on The Squeeze.